Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Sideliners. Now, we're just going to get things started with EMU football, So they lost a close homecoming game this weekend to Western Michigan. It was 20-17 in overtime, all because of a missed tying field goal.
I mean, this game was brutal to watch, just to see it happen, because this has been the landscape of this season so far.
Yep.
It's always been, oh, we have a shot to win it at the very end of the game, and they just don't know how to win the close game.
Yep. I mean, their issue is they're losing every game by nothing, basically nothing. I think they've lost, 6 or 5 games this season by a total of less than 24 points. A total. They are 24 points or less. Like, they're that close to being a 8-0 or 7-0 team.
I mean, that's just the trend for this year.
I guess.
And then this game in particular, you had 3 turnovers, an interception by Broback. 2 fumbles. I think one of them was by Breck Turner, the other by Ian Erickson. It was just, and that and costly penalties. You had a unnecessary touchdown catch that went for probably about 60 yards. Dooley Aristow comes up behind the guy when Matthew Sexton's 5 yards from the end zone, pushes the guy down. That's a penalty. There was passer interference alongside that penalty, but then there was a sideline interference from Eastern sideline.
True.
So we took a 60-yard gain with plus points. We went back 15 yards. You can't have that in this game.
And Vince Calhoun got called for that targeting play, which was a big factor because he's one of our top defenders. I mean, he's usually leading the games in tackles, but I want to get back to the turnovers. Like you said, Breck Turner and Ian Erickson both had fumbles. And it's kind of disappointing because Ian Erickson has grown into being the feature back for Eastern, which we did not have in, the first 5 weeks?
Oh, nobody's expected him to rise the way he did the past 2 games.
No, I mean, this game he had 91 yards on 23 attempts. I think he had over 100 yards last game. He's a stud, and it's just very impressive when you look at who was expected to be our guy, which was Shaq Vaughn. Now, what's happened to him? How did he fall off?
He's been injured. He's had issues with holding on to the football as well. He just really, all that mojo he had built behind Darius Jackson is kind of gone.
True.
And which is why Erickson has rose up and nobody expected it. But back to what you were talking about, Vince Calhoun. Vince Calhoun along with Sergio Bailey, you can argue those two have been the best players on this team, period.
Oh, hands down.
Vince Calhoun has been a tackling machine on the defensive side. He's been all over the field. You saw him in the Army game.
Oh, yeah.
He was a monster.
Yeah.
And then Sergio's Mr. Reliable. I was talking to somebody and they said Sergio kind of looks like he's lost a little bit of his swagger from last year.
Where? How?
He just had that it factor. Whenever there was ever a 50-50 ball, he would come down with it 95% of the time.
True.
And that's kind of, I don't know. Teams have caught on with Sergio.
But his stats are still improving.
Oh,
and
definitely.
This is, the first game in several weeks that he wasn't the feature wide receiver. Instead, this week it was Antoine Porter who had 93 yards on 10 receptions. I think this game, although we lost, helps Sergio going forward because now teams realize, well, it's not just him. You don't just have to focus on Sergio. You have to watch Antoine Porter, who is consistently good, but with Sergio's success, he kind of falls into the shadows. Now, on defense, Max Crosby, yet again, another sack. And Jason Beck and Brody Hoying.
Brody Hoying's been a monster this year.
Both of them had double-digit tackles. Beck had 13 and Hoying had 12. But
and you'll see this right here. We actually knocked out the starting quarterback, Wasink, for Western. I think it was in the 4th quarter.
Yep.
So it was like that momentum was starting to build our way, and obviously it got taken away.
And just for the record, we wish Wasink a healthy recovery. He's going to be out a couple weeks. I think it was a broken collarbone.
It definitely.
It's very unfortunate, but still, our defense is the shining point of this team. Offense has been improving. Brogan Roback has been getting much better. I don't want to say he's doing what he needs to still, but he's getting to that point. He still needs more touchdowns, and he needs to cut down on turnovers.
They're still just not. They're not doing enough offensively. I mean, this was a team last year who felt like every game you could score 30 points for them. But we're going to take a break, and here in a second,
when we come back, we will be talking about Michigan State and the Red Wings.
Welcome to one of the fastest growing universities for freshmen in Michigan. A university where differences are celebrated, where faculty believe their students' success is their success, where our honors college has doubled in size, and where we are nationally recognized for educating and improving our community. Being here is about being part of something bigger. It's about being part of a family. It's about fitting in while standing out. Now's the time to challenge yourself and be surrounded by people who truly care about your success. So whether you become an artist who inspires others, a creator who develops something new, or an innovator who changes the way people think, this is your opportunity. Fuel your curiosity through research. Hit the stage and enrich the lives of others. Compete in Division I athletics. No matter your path, we all bleed green. So roll up your sleeves. Dive in. Experience learning in and out of the classroom. Be a student of life. Welcome to higher education. Welcome to Eastern Michigan University. Welcome home.
All right, welcome back to the Sideliners. We're going to get to the Red Wings in just a minute, but first we're going to touch on the Michigan State-Penn State. And boy, was it a surprise to a lot of people. I wasn't really surprised.
I wasn't surprised.
But I know a lot of this area was very surprised with how this game went out.
I mean, yeah, as everyone knows, Michigan unfortunately was trampled by Penn State, 42-13.
I wouldn't say unfortunately.
You look here, yet again, Michigan's biggest question mark is O'Korn. We're not winning with him at quarterback. He threw 166 yards in 16 completions. So 10 yards of completion. That's really not that great. And then you look at running, we only ran for 103 yards, and that is the catalyst of this offense, is their run game. Definitely.
And like the biggest stat to this Michigan offense to me is look at the 2.5 yards per carry.
Yep.
You had 42 carries on the game. Mm-hmm. You can only manage 2.5 yards a carry. That's not getting first downs. That's not getting yardage, period. And another big stat, Penn State, 506 offensive yards, 269 yards by the Michigan offense.
Yeah, and you look, Penn State's quarterback threw for 282 yards, okay? That alone is impressive when you talk about how dominant Michigan's defense has been.
Oh, and that doesn't even count the 76 rushing yards he had, and he had 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
It was a monster game.
And Barkley, who I just was talking to you about it, he is hands down the Heisman this year. I mean, it's unreal. The guy had 108 yards on 15 attempts, including that big rushing touchdown right at the beginning of the game, which I think swung the momentum completely away from Michigan. I mean, you don't expect in the top or the first 5 plays for a 60-some yard rushing touchdown to break free. And once it does, everything you've worked for on defense or that you're known for is put down the drain.
And it doesn't help Michigan when this is arguably, as an Ohio State fan, this is arguably the hardest place to play in the entire country.
Yep.
Penn State, on a whiteout, it's one of the most unique experiences. And just watching it on TV, it was a great experience.
Yeah, I mean, you'd put it up there with playing against Michigan while they're at the Big House.
Yeah.
I mean, those two places are so difficult to go in there with the home crowd behind them and to win. But now we're going to get into the Red Wings. Now, for me, this has been a really frustrating season, and we are only 9 games in. We were 4-1 to start the season, and since then, we've lost 4 straight games. You can see here, we beat the teams we needed to beat. Minnesota, Ottawa, lost to Dallas. They're still a very good team, but we beat Arizona and beat the Vegas Golden Knights. Then we came home and 4 straight losses to Tampa, Toronto, a very close one in Washington, which I will give that team that, but then a 4-1 loss to Vancouver. I mean, this is just not making sense right now.
I mean, there were not high expectations going into the year for the Red Wings. This is now a team that's got to be in rebuild mode.
Yep.
After the streak's over. The streak's over. There's no pressure to keep the streak going.
No.
And I think a big stat that I saw just going through the lines was this team is 26 in shots per game.
Yes.
In NHL.
And that was one of my biggest critiques on Blashill is he wants the offense to find the perfect shot. Instead of just throwing a puck at the net and seeing if there's a rebound or a deflection, anything, he wants them to set up to create the perfect shot. Well, why is this a bad thing? Because the more you pelt shots at a goalie, the better of a chance it is that one's going to slip by because he's seen so many, so he's on the back of his heels. But this team, it's not just our offense, it's the defense and our goalies. Our Jimmy Howard is 3-2 on the season, lost to 2 very good teams. I'll give him that. But Mrazek's 1-3. He is not the stud that I think a lot of Detroit fans were expecting him to be. And it's hurting us. Now, offensive-wise, like you said, 26 in shots per game. You're not going to win games if you're that low. You just got to start throwing stuff at the net and hope for rebounds. Hope the goalie can't snag them. That's their only hope.
And the thing is, they don't do anything particularly better than any other team. They're middle of the pack in the majority of the categories when it comes to the stats. And, you have to look to improve upon that.
Absolutely.
But we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. We'll be talking some about the NFL action that happened over this weekend and a little bit about who we think our best teams in the NFL are.
Hi, my name is Shanna Gilkison, and ETV has been a very important part of my life, especially for the last 4 years.
I got my start at ETV in my 3rd semester at Eastern from fellow students, and it's been a great experience.
Working with all these new people that I didn't know before, it's very awesome just seeing how willing people are to get together and create something from scratch.
I'm Shanna Gilkison for Eastern Weekly, and this is E-Walking.
I will also be hosting and producing a sort of like a late night style talk show.
Everyone that's here wants to be here. They care to be here. They want to work. They want to learn. And with that kind of environment, everybody benefits.
I tell you, I've been doing really well, very successful here at Eastern, but it wasn't until I really became part of the ETV club that I really felt like I was getting more of what I needed as a student.
We decided that we wanted to do things above and beyond our coursework. So I was part of founding the ETV Student Org.
It just so happened that Shanna was in one of my classes, and she told me to come, and I showed up, and it was very warm welcome. Like, everybody was very nice to me right away, and they actually had an idea to make a sitcom, or actually they called it a soap opera at that time, and they said they had they weren't sure exactly what they wanted, but they wanted one thing. They knew that they wanted this guy, his name is Ramon, to be their main character. I mean, that was kind of how the show Week at a Glance kind of took off.
Beyond Eastern's walls, when I'm done here, I'll probably be working with some people from ETV, again, professionally. And I think a lot of students don't take advantage of what they should with organizations on campus, and ETV is one of the best.
And welcome back. We are now going to start talking about the NFL and some of the more so interesting matchups that happened over the weekend. And the first one I want to start with Chiefs and Raiders.
I mean, that was a Thursday night game. These Thursday night games have been impressive early.
They have.
Like, they've been really entertaining. And this was the most entertaining that we've seen this year.
Oh,
you saw Derek Carr do what he does so well over the past 3 years. I think I saw a stat. He leads the NFL in fourth quarter comebacks in the last 3 years, which is crazy, especially because Matt Stafford having as many as he did last year.
Everyone hears about Matt Stafford, but no one really thinks about Derek Carr. And like you said, Derek Carr lit it up. 417 yards, 3 touchdown passes. But because they won, no one's really talking about the losing quarterback, who also threw for 342 yards and 3 touchdown passes. Neither quarterback threw an interception. This was an offensive game. Derek Carr didn't take a single sack. Alex Smith only took 1 sack the entire game. That's impressive, especially when you think about the fact that Khalil Mack is the edge rusher on the other side of the ball.
And that's a loaded pass rush over in Oakland.
Yep.
And Kareem Hunt, not a spectacular game, but another good game. Yeah. Another good game in a shootout, so you're not expecting big yards out of him.
It's pretty bad when a rookie runs for 18 rushes and 87 yards, and people are saying, oh, that wasn't a good game. That wasn't a good game for him. There's a lot of running backs in this league that wish they could get 87 yards a week. But Kareem Hunt out of Toledo has been very, very impressive this year. But I want to kind of switch over to Oakland. Now, Oakland had to battle back. This was a fourth quarter comeback where they had 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. But I don't think I have ever seen a stranger 2 minutes left in a game than I did with that game. There were penalties on defense, on offense. You had, it was crazy. There was, maybe 4 penalties in the last minute alone while in the red zone. And somehow Derek Carr manages to throw a perfect pass to Michael Crabtree, who it was his only touchdown of the game, but it couldn't have come at a bigger moment. So,
you saw a monster game, the breakout game of the year, a guy we've expecting big things from over the course of the past couple of seasons. Amari Cooper, 210 receiving yards on 11 catches. He did get targeted 19 times, but also he added 2 touchdowns, averaged about 20 yards of reception. So it was a big play game for him.
Yeah, both teams, when it came to their playmakers, Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, all 4 of those guys in the receiving corps caught a touchdown. Amari, obviously, having 2. The person who was surprisingly kept the most quiet was Kareem Hunt. Now, what did Oakland do? Did Oakland just show the blueprint on how to shut him down and force Alex Smith to pass? But at the same time, is that good for them? Because when you force him to pass, he still puts up 340 yards and 3 touchdowns.
I think to beat Kansas City this year, you have to outscore them. This is a good Kansas City offense. They have a lot of playmakers: Tyreek Hill, Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, Alex Smith, just slinging it like he's never slung it before. You have to find a way to outscore them. That's what I think Pittsburgh realized what the blueprint was in Oakland. And I think what they've realized is I would rather lose to Alex Smith than allowing Kareem Hunt to scorch us for 180 yards.
Oh, yeah. Now, the interesting thing, though, because you brought up the Steelers, was the Steelers didn't allow their offense anything, though. The Steelers, I can't remember what they did, but they shut down that offense the entire game. But we're going to move on. There was a really interesting game, the Panthers against the Bears. Now, the Panthers have surprisingly been a solid team this year. It's safe to say that Cam Newton may have not had the best season, but he's still been impressive. He had a terrible, terrible game, and that's putting it lightly. Threw 2 interceptions, sacked 5 times. This is one of the most mobile quarterbacks in the NFL. You got to get out of there. But at the same time, if you can't just be throwing up wild passes. Now, he did do that little shovel pass or pitch, whatever you want to call it, that ended up being fumbled by a wide receiver, but there was no reason the Bears should have won this game.
Oh, definitely. Cam Newton handed the Bears more points than he handed his own offense.
Yep.
Eddie Jackson was the star of the show, a guy who broke his leg literally exactly a year when he was at Alabama, a year before this game, a 75-yard pick six, and then a 76-yard fumble return for a touchdown. He had a spectacular breakout game, and a guy who a lot of people expected big things out of and slipped in the draft because obviously he broke his leg. People didn't know how he would recover. People didn't know if he was just a product of Alabama's system. True. And he came out and he delivered huge for the Bears in a game that they only allowed Mitch Trubisky to throw 7 passes.
Yeah, and I think one of the impressive things about that, though, is out of 4 completions, he threw for 107 yards. Now, yes, 70 came from the Tariq Cohen pass, but ever since he's been the starting quarterback, there has been just some spark or life that the Bears have that they hadn't in the past several years. I mean, yeah, he's not throwing it that much. Eventually, they have to let him off his leash and let the guy start slinging it. But since he was picked in the 2nd overall pick, and since they started him, I think they're, 2-1 now? Yeah. And, it's not that impressive. 2-1. Well, they won 2 straight games. They beat the Panthers. Something's working for this guy. So now, with all that being said, I want to kind of get into the best teams in the NFL. In your opinion, from 1st to 5th, who are your top 5 teams?
This is going to come off as bias, my number 1.
Okay.
I'm a big Patriots fan. I think the Patriots, just what they showed on Sunday night, that defense did a tremendous job. They made Matt Ryan look silly.
Yep.
Then the Eagles. The Eagles have been a big surprise.
Absolutely.
I figured Carson Wentz would either have a breakout year or he'd have another down year, and he's been spectacular. He's been, in my opinion, the MVP of the season so far.
Oh, hands down.
And a couple other teams, the Chiefs.
Yep.
I like the Rams a lot this year. They have a really good defense, a great running game, and Jared Goff is in a great system. And then my surprise team, a lot of people have Pittsburgh in this spot. I like the Minnesota Vikings a lot.
That's a good pick.
They have a great defense, one of the best secondaries in football, alongside your Denver Broncos.
Thank you.
And a great pass rush. And also, they could be getting Teddy Bridgewater back in the next couple weeks.
Yep.
Well, even though, what's his name?
Case Keenum.
Case Keenum has been playing pretty well.
He has. Now, for my teams, we have a lot of these similar, but I think our last 2 picks were where we differed. Now, my first team is the Philadelphia Eagles. Hands down, best team, no question. Carson Wentz has made one of the biggest jumps I have ever seen in the NFL from year 1 to year 2. I mean, like you said, right now he is the MVP. There's no question. No offense to Alex Smith or Kareem Hunt. He is the MVP. Now, number 2, I have the Chiefs. Why? Because of the 2 people I just said. Kareem Hunt and Alex Smith. 2 guys who are also in the MVP race. Number 3, the Rams. Same thing that you said. Todd Gurley's doing very well. You got Aaron Donald as your anchor on that defense, and Jared Goff is in a perfect system. I do have your Patriots up there, but they're scaring me. They are not beating teams out like the Patriots always have. And they've had some very close games to some very iffy teams. Just to speak of one of them, the Jets.
Yeah.
That should not have been there. And then, like you said, you have the Vikings. I have the Steelers. That offense is too high-powered. As long as Ben Roethlisberger protects the ball, unlike he did against the Jacksonville Jaguars, 5 picks, my fantasy suffered, they will be the 5th best team, and they'll make a race in the AFC West. But that is all we have for the NFL teams. Once we come back from break, we'll be doing NCAA and NFL predictions. Thank you.
A radio station? Well, say no more. EMU offers a class through Eagle Radio that will thoroughly prepare you for a real-life experience. But first, you have to register for the class. Pick a date and a time slot. Then the world is yours. Eagle Radio allows you to be fully independent and customize your own show. Have real conversations about the news, celebrity gossip, update listeners about the weather, play a trivia game. It's your show. You're free to name your show whatever you want and play any edited music of your choice. If you love having heated debates and you feel your words need to be heard, then Eagle Radio is just for you. EMU.
We are true EMU.
We are back, and we're just going to jump right into it. NCAA predictions. We picked the top 10 ranked teams, and we decided that we were going to, well, predict our games on who we think would win. So I'm going to start. We're just going to get right into it. I have the number 8 Miami Hurricanes beating my University of North Carolina Tar Heels. Pretty badly,
must hurt.
too. Oh, trust me, you never want to pick a team to beat your favorite team, but I have to.
They stink.
Anyways,
Right.
then I have the number 5 Wisconsin Badgers beating the Illinois Fighting Illini. I have Ohio State pulling off an upset against Penn State, which I think is going to be a very high-scoring game, 32-28. Number 25 Iowa State will also pull off the upset. They've just been running. They've been running with the momentum. Then I've got Notre Dame against NC State, and having played them with UNC, I know how good Notre Dame can be. Their run game is effective. Clemson is going to beat Georgia Tech. Clemson's going to start bouncing back. They're going to get back into it. Number 7 ranked team. By the end of it, they're going to be top 5 again. And then I got number 10 Oklahoma over Texas Tech.
I like that last one.
Thank you.
That was a good one. I have a little bit, that one's a little bit more tighter with me, but I'm going to start with your North Carolina Tar Heels. Miami's going to obliterate them.
Oh, jeez.
They're going to send them crying. They can't wait for basketball season to get started. 45-7. Wisconsin's going to also destroy Illinois.
Yep.
32-10. That's not. They're a really good team, and I can't wait to see them play a good team. Ohio State, my Buckeyes, are going to beat Penn State at home, 32-28. That's going to be a fun game to watch. I also have Iowa State is going to upset TCU 35-32.
Thank you.
I think Iowa State is going to keep that momentum going and shifting throughout the year. NC State, I do have upsetting Notre Dame. Notre Dame is one of those teams, as soon as they get hype, they're going to lose. So that's what's going to happen. They're going to lose this week.
We'll see.
Clemson, even though their quarterback may or may not play this week, I still have them beating Georgia Tech. I think it's going to be close, but because Clemson always plays teams close. It's going to be 21-14.
Yep.
And then Oklahoma in a shootout against Texas Tech, 42-38. Baker Mayfield is trying to get back into this Heisman race.
And just to be a top pick in this upcoming draft.
Yeah.
Now we're going to go to NFL, and we're going to just hit on some key games. So we're going to focus on our Steelers, Texans, and the Chiefs game. So for me, I have the Steelers beating the Lions in a shootout. It's going to be a gunslinging shootout, 34-28. I do have what most would say is an upset with the Texans beating Seattle, but I think the Texans' offense is just too strong. Deshaun Watson has grown in, and then my Broncos, I believe they will pull off the upset 21-17 over the Chiefs.
We agree on one of the three, I'll say. I think Pittsburgh is going to beat the Detroit. I think Pittsburgh has a lot more momentum. Detroit's coming off a bye week, but they're still coming off a couple weeks where they really struggled defensively, particularly after a good, strong beginning of the season. And then I have the Seahawks over the Texans, which is not – I don't really have a big upset in any of these picks. Yeah. They're all predictable. I just think that defense is going to shut Deshaun Watson down. And he's still a rookie. And then the Chiefs are going to beat your Broncos 17-7 because the Broncos do not have a physical offense.
I agree with you on that, but I think they're going to bring it back. If we can bring the offense that we had the first 2 weeks, they're a scary team. Still the number 1 defense in the league. Now, it could go exactly as you said, just a 17-7 game. I mean, both defenses are pretty strong. We will just, we'll see. But that is all the time we have. We thank you for joining Sideliners again for week 2, and we are excited to be back next week. Take care.